Alexee Trevizo just had a court hearing, and that was done via Zoom. And yeah, so what I wanted to say with her is that the thing is with those I didn't know I was pregnant type stories, usually, like, these women are active or overweight. It, like, goes one way or the other.
Yep.
They're extremely active or they're overweight, and they don't see, like, a baby bump. With Alexi, I feel like it was so obvious what it was that I don't know how you couldn't know. She thought she was only gaining weight in her uterus?
I mean,
like, literally not a full belly, not like all the left hand, literally just that spot.
So many of our viewers, like even J Ray, if you're watching this, but commented about that and said a very similar thing. But you guys, I think denial is very strong. And I also think this could be a situation when you're an outsider looking in, it's easy to judge. But when you're a person going through it that has a helicopter parent, an overbearing parent, and believes, like, my family could hate me, this could be the end of my world if I'm pregnant, I think denial is stronger than you think, you guys. That's why I'm saying I just need one piece, like, give me a shred of evidence that she knew. Give me a TikTok test like that. Give me anything.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything yet. I need that in order to not feel like, based off what I saw in the video, that it could have been a phantom pregnancy.
Yeah, we don't have anything yet as far as that. There is no evidence besides people at her school saying that she knew.
Yeah.
That's it. We just have, like, supposed witnesses coming up, like, calling the news and saying she knew.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which schools are, like, gossip kingdoms.
Right.
They specialize in gossip.
And if she had that big old baby bump out there cheerleading, you think people weren't spreading rumors that she was pregnant?
It could be. It could
Probably.
be. I'm just curious. I want to know.
And she had that boyfriend. Like, I don't know. I can totally see that in high school, people spreading rumors about it. And maybe it didn't get back to her, or maybe she was like, in such denial, she was like, no way, guys, I'm not pregnant. I'm just getting fat, and I need to take diet pills.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like she was trying to do.
Yeah. But I want all of you that are listening to understand my position. I'm not saying she's innocent, so don't attack me on that. I do think she needs to be held accountable, but I believe murder one is an overcharge, and they're going to get nothing going that route. The state's going to end up not getting anything going that route. I could
agree that murder one is an overcharge. I could agree with that, because here's one big thing I want to mention, is we know that medical professionals kept going to check up on her. This is a hospital where they're walking back and forth in the hallway. Like, I've watched a lot of that security camera footage, and the nurses going back and forth at no part ever, which Alexi says when they ask her about it, it wasn't crying. Well, they didn't actually technically ask her. She just said it. It wasn't crying. Nobody heard a cry. Nobody ever reported a cry.
Yeah.
They heard flushing a lot. Paper towels and flushing. So we know they were hearing sounds. They were hearing the flushing and the toilet papers over and over. They
listened.
Yes, they sat there and listened and tried to talk to her, got no answer, and they did this over and over and over until their concern grew to a point where they're like, okay, we're getting a key and unlocking the door. And then she was done by then. But none of them ever heard a cry, which I think is important.
It is. I agree it's important. I agree. It's also important that the air in the lungs can be done from CPR.
Yeah, so I don't know that for 100% sure if that's what happened, because I don't think we know if CPR was done on the baby, but I would assume so.
Well, there's a contradiction where one of the interviews, the in-person interviews, one of the nurses says that they did CPR, and then in the secondary interviews where they're doing the by themselves interviews, they say that it wasn't done. So there's a contradiction.
So they didn't try to resuscitate the baby at all then?
There's a contradiction.
Huh.
Yep, there's a contradiction. And some of our viewers let me onto that because I was under the belief that they did try and resuscitate, because why wouldn't you?
Right.
Babies can literally be born and not take a breath for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, dude, and pull out. Like, it's not like a normal human losing lack of oxygen. They're transitioning from a place of no oxygen to now
Well, no,
oxygen.
they had oxygen through blood.
Right. But it's not being taken in by their lungs. That's why they can go longer than like a regular person or whatever. Can. So I just don't see a hospital staff not knowing that and trying, dude. Babies are born blue. I was born blue, okay? So even if you look at a baby and they're blue, you can
still
come
try.
back.
You still try.
Yes.
I agree with that. They said it was cold to the touch, though. Maybe that is why they didn't try. I don't know.
Maybe.
So in this hearing, there was some buffoonery, okay? They had a bunch of people on the Zoom call, and somebody was muting the lawyers and the judges' mics as they were talking.
No.
They kept muting over and over. Like, while they were in the middle of this hearing, trying to get through this, and somebody is in there messing around, muting them.
No way. What is the point?
But also, how is a court gonna allow that? How are they not gonna, like, kick that? How could they not just kick that person off?
I mean, what I would have done is kicked everybody off that wasn't essential.
Right. How is this an open hearing like that? That's weird to me. Like, I don't know if I would just open a Zoom court hearing to the entire public. Like, if you want it to the public, why don't you live stream your Zoom hearing? Not open it up where people can just join and mute you.
I hear you.
Can't you set up permissions so people also can't do that?
Yes, you can.
They gotta figure it out.
Yes.
Because if they're gonna do these hearings through Zoom, that can't be happening. And also, people were yelling at the end, like yelling stuff into the Zoom meeting.
Shut up. Are you serious?
I am so serious.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, USA, we got our justice system together.
Right?
Check out how good we do with Zoom.
So, main topics for this court hearing was the lawyer, so the defense and the state kind of explaining, like, their cases as far as privilege, Miranda rights, which involves the video in the hospital, whether that's privileged or not, whether that is like a public space or a private space where it shouldn't have been just released like that, and HIPAA violations, which it sounds like both the defense and the state agree they can't really do anything about that in this case, that's going to be all with the civil suit that Alexe's lawyer has filed against the hospital.
Yep.
So the whole
she's
time...
going to be set financially forever. Guaranteed, dude.
I wonder if they're just going to settle. I don't know. But she was sitting behind her lawyer the whole time, just like this at the table. Like, he's front and center, and she's in the literal background. Like, just sitting at the table like this the whole time.
Really?
It's really weird.
It's really awkward.
It's super awkward to me. He had her, like, in the back, just sitting at the table. Like, I'm like, did she ever move? Is she even there? Like, is this a green screen? He just took a picture of her sitting there.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
She's not moving.
It was weird.
Yeah.
There's something just different about Alexi, I feel like. There's something off about her.
I felt the same way about Alexis, too. The story we just talked about for those of you
Alexis is more off than Alexi, though. Alexis is literally bat. Okay.
I mean, Alexi seemed kind of bad crazy.
Yeah, but you gotta understand, okay, one thing I feel like people don't point out enough is that She just gave birth. She's on morphine and multiple other drugs,
Yeah.
and she's bleeding out.
We pointed this out. I think that's all fair.
We didn't point out the fact that on top of all that, she's literally bleeding out to the point where blood is dripping on the floor and having a puddle and all the blood in the bathroom. And they're literally taking her on a helicopter to help her get help to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
And also make sure there's nothing else inside of her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so she's losing blood. She just gave birth and it was in extreme pain. Morphine. Like, there's a lot of extenuating factors. Like, and not to mention this is traumatic and, like, crazy.
Yeah. No,
so
I'm right there with you. I
don't know how off she actually is.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that's
based
the
on
only
the video
example.
you're saying, it sounds like she's at least awkward.
Yeah, but she's, like, told to sit back there by her lawyer. What else is she really supposed to do?
You think her lawyer's going to be like, hey, sit there and sit still and don't move and don't act normal by, like, itching your face or anything like that?
I mean, honestly, I wasn't staring at her the whole time, but it did look like she didn't really move.
Yeah.
Basically, Alexei's lawyer says the state's case is all about what happened in the bathroom, and he thinks everything else, the body cam footage we saw, the hallway footage we saw, literally everything from the time she got there to the time she left should be privileged and protected and not able to be used in court. That's his argument.
Yeah.
So then we have the state go into a third party being present, basically makes it so that none of it's privileged, which was insane to me. And they used her mother, saying her mother, because she's an adult, is considered a third party, so therefore nothing is privileged. And I was watching the lawyer, and he said, actually, yeah. And I'm thinking, dude, so when...
No, I thought that for marriage and children, that those same laws don't apply, though. There's
okay, but it's your parent and she's an adult. You just talked about a husband and a child. I don't think that's the same thing.
Yeah.
They said because she's an adult and her mother's there, she counts as a third party.
Oh, an adult and her mother's there. Yeah. I was thinking underage.
But I still think that's messed up because that's family. They're supporting someone who's in the ER, and you're gonna and clearly you're consenting to that one person being there, not the public.
Yeah. No, I get it. I agree with you.
How does that...
I'm just trying to think legally first before, like, what's right.
I just feel like that's a messed up law.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not okay. Like, everyone's arguing this, like, oh, yeah, technically this and this, and the lawyers, it's like, yeah, she's right, and, I'm like, what? But
there's a huge difference between a family member, like a mom or a dad, and the public, yeah.
Yeah, and police officers, too. So they said also the police officers would count as a third party. So that's where we come into the Miranda issues.
Police officers don't count as a third party, bro. She didn't invite them in. That doesn't count. Yeah. So police aren't allowed to be there unless they're charging you or there's some kind of concern for safety or something like that. So, like, if she would have gotten the phone with the lawyer right away, that lawyer would have been like, yo, are you arresting her? Okay, then get out of her room.
Okay, but here's the thing. Is they walked in there with the doctor, remember? And you immediately, when we were watching this footage on stream, were like, I don't know, I feel like they just violated her rights.
Yeah.
They walk in with the doctor and she says, Alexi, we found the baby. Like, I had to report it to the cops. The cops have to be involved now because we suspect a crime. All of that. And the mom starts yelling at her.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And Alexi's like, it's not breathing, stuff like that. And one of the cops does try to stop her and is like, whoa, 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 whoa. But then doesn't say anything. They never read her Miranda rights. Not once at the hospital.
Well, shoot. Then I would keep all of this in there. If I was her defense lawyer, that gets everybody off.
Well, that's how he wants all of it out. Is they won't have any of that because she was never advised of her rights.
Yeah, fair. 100%.
But So from what the lawyer was saying is that she would have had to... So he was talking about if it was a custodial interview, okay? For a custodial interview, they have to Miranda...
because they're using it as evidence.
They have to read you your Miranda rights for that, for a custodial interview.
They have to read you your Miranda rights for anything that gets used in a court of law. Here.
No, it's when you're detained.
No.
At any point you're detained is when they have to read you your Miranda rights. And he was arguing that you could argue she was detained. She could not get up and leave. Now, it was like, for a medical reason...
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Without being told that, nothing is supposed to be admissible in a court of law. That's what the Miranda rights are.
Yeah.
You have the right to an attorney. If you can afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you.
See, but you know how they find legal loopholes? Like,
yeah, of course.
There's all this... There's a lot more to it than just that.
I get there's legal loopholes. However, Miranda rights with a good attorney is not arguable, because if you are not told you have the right to remain silent, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Nothing can be used against you in a court of law.
Well, anyway, this is what they're trying to figure out, okay? They're trying to figure out, explain to the judge each of their arguments when it comes to this privilege, Miranda rights, whether her rights were violated or not, what can be admissible in court and what cannot. And the judge basically has to think it over, and they talk about the hallway footage, and it's in a hospital, okay? Well, the state argues that is a public hallway.
Okay.
So, is it public?
No. It's not. Do they let people back there? Is there visiting hours?
Good point.
Because if there's visiting hours, it is not
think
public.
About an emergency room that's very busy. I see patients, they literally will have them laying out in beds in the hallway and stuff.
Oh, yeah, dude. I've been rolled in a hospital, like, naked. Flat out in the hallway.
Like, that, I feel like that can't just be considered public. Like, you can't go in a hospital hallway and start recording everything.
No.
You can't do that.
No.
You could be violating people's rights.
Yep. If I was the defense attorney, I would literally hire someone to go in that hospital and just go in with your camera and start like, oh, hey, everyone say hi, we're live streaming.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the issue is... How did all of this get out to the public so quick before she, like, how did all of this happen? How did all of this just get released like that? Like, who was trying to character assassinate this girl? Like,
I don't feel like there's any character assassination.
No, but that's what it would feel like personally.
Yes.
When you're in that situation as Alexi, you would feel like, who is trying to ruin my life right now?
It would. I just think this is a very, like, I can't think of a more gray situation, okay? We have no evidence that she knew, so it's very possible she did know, it's very possible she didn't know. If she did know, the story is completely different, and there's a likelihood that she'll get murder one. If she didn't know, okay, the charges are a difference between like 20 years. Like, it is huge difference in these charges, all from the fact of, did she know if she was pregnant or not? And it is so gray right in the middle, you know?
Yeah, I mean...
people want to believe what they want to believe because everyone in the world's biased, us included, you know, we just have to do the best we can to keep that in check. But people want to believe what they want to believe.
Yeah, and I feel like the defense lawyer actually, I feel like he was doing a good job of explaining this, and I side more with him, to be honest, about the privacy concerns. I know some of it is him trying to push it as far as he can go. So there's like...
I mean, HIPAA is like really important, you guys.
Well, apparently
nobody's supposed to be in on that. And we even see some other cases like Brian Koberger in the Idaho 4, where I think they've used HIPAA violations to character assassinate him with his depression group, where he's supposed to be able to speak openly and freely or whatever, where he talks about like... I feel like the world is like a video game, and I can't even express myself in front of my parents or whatever. Like, I don't feel like that stuff should be out. It was a support group, you know?
Yeah.
So this definitely shouldn't be able to be out.
That's not medical treatment unless there's medical professionals there, though.
While
there is a code of, like, honor.
I get it, but who set up that forum?
Yeah.
A medical professional.
They did.
Who else would? It was suggested by medical professionals.
Okay, but there's plenty of people who run groups that aren't medical professionals. So,
if it's a therapy group, I mean, it's for therapy, which
yeah,
is
but
a medical...
group therapy is different than, like, therapy.
I don't think so.
Yeah, yes, there's not always a counselor at some group therapies. Like, it can be just a group of peers. There doesn't always have to be someone who's, like, a certified counselor. I think
that's arguable. I'm curious what you guys think. But no, I think there's health benefits. And I don't think it has to be guided by a professional.
I know of a group that you know of right now that is guided not by professionals.
I get that, but there's still medical health benefits that are being done and suggested by a medical professional. So
I don't know. That's not the point,
like
though.
A prescription.
So you got me off topic now, because we're arguing a support group and Kohberger. This isn't about Kohberger. Not everything's about Kohberger.
I don't think it is.
So where were we at?
We were just talking about the HIPAA violations.
I feel like he does a good job arguing about how there were no court orders or warrants at any point to obtain any of the security footage, any of the doctors or the nurses' statements.
Yeah.
Which is not normal.
I know.
They literally...
Yeah.
There's tons of times police have tried to go to medical professionals and tried to get an interview, and they're like, you have to bring a warrant. I cannot violate HIPAA unless you have a warrant from a judge.
Correct.
There were none
at
any point ever.
I know.
Which is crazy to me.
It is really wild. It is really wild.
And I think that is literally one of the most important things he said, even though it didn't seem like that was the hard-hitting point he was making. I think that was incredibly important.
I think so, too. And that's something that we didn't dig into too hard at first when we were initially talking about this. But every single one of those medical professionals that's sitting in front of that camera when they're being interviewed talking about her... are breaking HIPAA. Every single one.
Yeah. So then there was the argument about what the medical professionals see her doing is different than her medical care and treatment.
Yep.
So I'm not a lawyer, but I mean, everything they were doing and talking to her is medical treatment, is it not?
It is.
So I don't see how it can be distinguished.
So, I do. They can either talk about it as an eyewitness account, meaning they would have to speak specifically on what they saw in the bathroom and nothing else. If they talked about anything else, it would have to be in reference to her treatment of being there. If they talked about blood work, if they talked about her behavior, if they talked about her condition, if they talked about any of that, that falls under HIPAA. But being an eyewitness to the scene does not.
I also heard people arguing that once the baby was born, that it could be argued that the doctor became the baby's doctor and the baby has rights. So that could change things a little bit, I guess. But one interesting part is that if she uses, so say he gets some of that stuff thrown out, some of that evidence, like the footage and stuff, and things that are privileged, if they use any of that in the civil case, then that becomes public information, and it can be put right back into the trial.
Yeah.
Like, the state can go grab it now because it's public information, and she's basically waived her right to privilege, and they can bring that all into the criminal case.
All they have to do is push off the cil case, though.
Yeah.
That's it.
But
And then the civil case can't be settled then. Because if there's settlement, then no information is public information.
Right. We wouldn't have anything then.
Nothing.
At all.
Yep.
I wanted to see what her next court date is because I forgot to write it down.
Yeah.
So her next court... Wait. A date for her trial was set for October 2nd, 2023?
Yeah.
No way. That soon?
Yeah, maybe.
Why does it seem like it's October 2nd is such a popular day?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Well, interesting. But yeah, it was kind of a crap show, but I do feel a difference in watching this court hearing, even though there was like so much going on with the muting and like the yelling. I feel like the state and the defense and the judge are actually working together respectfully, which is a nice change of speed from Koberger.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll say that.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, just awaiting more information now at this point. The judge has to take all this information, process it, and make some decisions. And we'll see what happens. Like, she has to decide, go through all the stuff, and figure out what she's going to say. This is privileged and this is not.
Yep. Let us know what you guys think.
For sure.
Yeah.